You spent some time during the year in China. What do you see happening there?
China is just mind-blowing. I mean, it's something that I grew up in California. So as a kid, I lived in California, and I feel very comfortable in California, the Western lifestyle, but in California you have the idea that that's the best place in the world, and the smartest people in the world are in Silicon Valley, and there's nothing worth mentioning outside of Silicon Valley. That's really the California mentality. And for a long time, I really lived that, and I believed that. And then since a couple of years, I've been spending more time in China, seeing how it evolves. And I've come to fundamentally believe that if you want to see the real power of innovation, you have to go to China. If you want to understand where the future of technology is, you have to go to China. I'll tell you a story. Just before the summer, we were in Shenzhen, so the Chinese part of Hong Kong, a huge mega city where all the technology companies are basically building the future. And we had arrived, I think on Saturday or Sunday, I don't remember. We went to a mall just next to the hotel, and I went to a Häagen-Dazs to buy an ice cream. And I'm there with my buddy, Steven, and I order 2 ice creams, and we have to pay. And I take out my credit card, and the store starts to laugh because a credit card is seen as like a medieval. It was as if I was trying to pay for a camel and a goat for my ice cream. And I couldn't pay with my credit card because I think a credit card is completely old school. Everybody pays with Alipay or WeChat, and you scan the code and it's paid. Every merchant on the street who is selling, melons or avocados is just scan and buy. And I think this is something which is fundamental. I mean, China has been ramping up their innovation potential in the last couple of years. At MIT, as in any big American top university, it's filled with Chinese students for years and years and years. But if I talk to some of these students who are the best technology students in the world, they go to MIT, and 3 years ago, their main dream in life was to go to Silicon Valley and become rich. And now these Chinese students at MIT say, we're not gonna go to Silicon Valley, that's old school. We're gonna go back to China because that's where the opportunities are. And I think this is something that we have to figure out what it means. For a long time in technology and digital, China was a copycat, they were copying. But now I would argue that Alibaba is more advanced than Amazon. Tencent, the owner of WeChat, is much more advanced than Facebook. And I think what we're beginning to see is that the sophistication, the quality, the scale of their digital platforms is actually much better than everything we see happening out of Silicon Valley. And what I find really, really scary is that the world almost seems to be polarized, right? I mean, here in Europe, who's the #1 search engine? Google. Who's the #2? Fuck, I don't know. Nobody cares. It's a winner-takes-all category kings market. And in Europe, we've taken primarily the Silicon Valley alternatives. But China is expanding tremendously. They have this thing called the One Belt, One Road program, the new Silk Road. They're building high-speed trains in Serbia. They own the Greek harbor in Piraeus in Athens. They're building enormous amount of connections to Africa. And they're expanding not just economically, but digitally as well. They're taking all their digital platforms. And very soon, the world will be either you're on a Chinese digital platform or Silicon Valley. And in Europe, we've lost the game. In Europe, we have completely been taken by surprise because we have no search engine, we have no social network. I mean, what do we have in Europe that is a digital platform? We have Booking.com and we've got Spotify. So we focused on the leisure activities, but not on the core business activities. And I think this is one of the big shames that we have of the beginning of the 21st century.